Okay, we're going. We're not live, but we're recording now. So
Okay. What should we talk about?
I don't know. Pick from a million things. You're well. Let's start with you a little bit. You said New Zealand. You said,
Yeah.
and can you give just like a personal background and again share what you feel is okay for you to share and
Oh, yeah, sure.
yeah, but
The
just a
most
little bit of personal background.
interesting thing that I've been going through is my awakening process. So I went from being pretty much asleep
Mm-hmm.
and like doing everything's automatically like Matrix style, and then about 3 4 years ago, I started like waking up to certain things like the money system and the banking system and this type of thing and consciousness slavery and things of this nature. And I really started working on lucid dreaming. And as a result of that, I ended up having to like wake up fully and finding out like most of my life I've been a part of Illuminati,
Mm.
like a MK Ultra program.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's been a very interesting discovery process, having to learn about I guess some of the truths in the world today, but also figuring out like how I've been interacting in this realm in the last 30 years.
And how old are you? Or
I'm
roughly?
31.
You're 31? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it seems to be like 30 seems to be some sort of pivotal thing for a lot of us, as far as most people have at least started the process by 30, but then for me it was like 30, it was 31, and I'm 33 now, so it was directly like the same correlation. Um, but yeah, it's for me it didn't start at 31. It started when I was like early 20s, but my surroundings at that time were not accepting of anything that I wanted to talk about or ask about or anything like that. So I kind of put it on hold until I hit 31, and then I was able to actually explore on my own without having to like get someone's approval, so to speak.
sure.
So how is it with your family, or if you have family members that are a part of Illuminati, then that means that there's going to be lots of secrecy and this and that, right? Like, how was that? Did you talk to people, or how did that go down a little bit?
It's not like how people think it is. Like people think it's like 8 p.m. the limousine rolls up and you hop in and you put the mask on and you do the line of cocaine and then you go off and you do great rituals.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't really work like that. What happens with intergenerational like satanic bloodlines is it's all done through like dissociated identity disorder. There's MK Ultra programming as kids,
Mm-hmm.
and we're basically born into that. Like our family members are like that, grandparents, and it goes down our entire ancestral line of basically like childhood torture and then fragmenting of the mind. And then when you can do that, you can run these kind of cults and you can partake in them, and you're not even realizing that you're in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, none of my family already knows that I'm in it. I'm sure, like, intuitively they pick up on it, um, but they don't remember anything. And the only difference between me and my family is that I remember, like, what goes on when we go to sleep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
things of that nature. So,
Right. So what's happening is you're having mind partitions, right, that block you in your sort of waking day to day regular life, that blocks you from whatever else is happening outside of that.
yeah, yeah, and you kind of need it, like, because the trauma is so difficult and some of the features are so complex, you need that kind of buffer in
Mm-hmm.
order to be able to function on day to day life, to work and to be friendly and to live a normal life. You need that kind of a memory block and those buffers. Otherwise, I don't think you can function too well in society.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of my good friends are in the Illuminati too. Like we're all raised together, and it's all like the schools we go to, the friends that we meet, the recreational activities we do. It's all organized by this cult, and who we're allowed to speak to and who we're allowed to have relationships with.
Mm-hmm.
and they've still got the idea multiple personality disorder. The programming hasn't broke down. So like my programming broke down, theirs hasn't. So I've had to distance myself from my friends and not really my family because I'm living with my family, but it's okay.
Did you have any like nervous breakdowns or panic attacks or anything coming out of this or coming back into remembering, or was that were you able to deal with that okay?
Well, it wasn't really memory. It's more or less I'm being used in a ritual, and well, I guess that is kind of it's not like memory from the past or from childhood. It's like a memory from last night. So
Mm.
I'll remember what happened during the evening
Right.
rather than like blanking it out.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that was some of it was okay, but some of it, of course, was terrible. But I think I'm handling it fine. But another thing, when the programming breaks down, I got a lot of information that's like not good for you know, power structures here. Like I got names, like
Mm-hmm.
what they do, you know, like government people, like so they of course like have to try and control me and program me and manipulate me and this type
Right.
of thing. So yeah,
So you would probably qualify as like what they call targeted individuals, right? Or
yeah,
some spectrum
yeah,
of that. Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, most of our lives are compartmentalized and controlled. But it makes sense to me why this has to be this way because it's we compromise too many ideas and too many people working within these cult factions. They don't want to be exposed, and
Right.
that they don't want any trouble. So
And as far as coming out of it, you're interested in not being involved in the more nefarious aspects, right? You're more interested in figuring yourself out and healing what needs to be healed and whatnot, things like that.
yeah, I like children, so I don't like cannibalism and things like this. So and
Have you had any backlash or anything from speaking out at all before?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like it's I'm not even meant to be speaking to you, so even speaking to you is like a big threat for a cult because they're
Mm-hmm.
very like super control freaks about everything. About
Right.
every interaction has to be controlled. Who you're speaking to, when you're speaking to, uh, what you're talking about. It all has to be controlled. Yeah. So I get a lot of backlash, but I don't really care. Like
It's your choice as an individual to how you decide to portray yourself to the outside world. And then whatever comes as a result of those choices is something that you of course you have to be able to deal with that, right?
yeah, well I've dealt with the worst. So like heavy black magic attacks and like psychotronic harassment, and they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't kill me because I can. Well, basically, I like certain abilities
Mm-hmm.
where I can flip timelines. So every time they try to kill me, I just can flip a timeline and live. And they're shocked by this too because this is the most advanced technology they're using. The most like biggest black magicians doing their black magic, and I can just flip timelines and be like, no, I'm gonna live. I'll live a week from now or a year from now, and they can't really do anything about that because a lot of attacks, black magic, and things of that nature, they need you at a certain kind of weak state before it even really becomes effective.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of defensive uh, maneuvers you can do to
Right.
survive it, I guess.
That's something Og was talking about. You familiar with Og?
Yeah,
What he was saying, and it made sense to me. As a human, right? As a human being, you are like a stepped down fragment of some larger being, right? This is you as the human is at least one timeline, which is composed of multiple timelines and multiple possibilities and things like that. So, if you are in one of these situations where something's getting bad, you just have to basically think outside of it, and then you reorganize to some other aspect where that's not like currently happening.
yeah, yeah. And they really rely on like your energy being low, and there's and you kind of have to flip into their timelines because they're all on negative timelines and they don't see the positive timelines. They don't have access to it.
Right.
So as long as you maintain that type of state, you're just not on their radar.
Right.
Or for someone like me, they just see me as a threat because I'm no longer involved in the occult timelines, so that it pisses them off. But that's my choice.
Right. Huh. And what type of work do you? How do you keep yourself busy as far as like regular life?
I'm not working right now, so like I'm basically just full time trying to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Because another thing with like coming out of these cults is like the DID system or multiple personality disorder system is you have a complete fragmented consciousness. So your soul gets fragmented and it's being used in many different ways across time. So it's not even linked to just this present timeline. It's linked to many different timelines.
Mm-hmm.
So mainly I'm just trying to retrieve these fragments and integrate them so I can be, I don't know, using all the energy myself. And
right. And do you
and
mainly
yeah.
do you have like your own personal practice mainly, or have you enlisted anybody to help you with this as far as like soul retrieval or regression or anything like that, or have you mainly done this work by yourself?
I mainly do it by myself, but I'm getting some help from, do you know Evil Oregon?
Yeah. I did a show with her.
Yeah, yeah, we're having a big chat, so she's helping me out with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. And do you deal with this stuff day to day? Like, do you have energy attacks every single day, or is it like a constant moment to moment sort of management, or do you have sort of reprieves here and there?
It's not so bad. Yeah, like most of my day's fine, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just being like aware of the actions that I'm doing and that I'm choosing to do and the thoughts that I'm having.
Right.
And making sure that they don't tip back to like Illuminati type of ideas, which is that's the problem of healing, because when you have a fragmented system, the majority of my system is Illuminati, like pro-Illuminati belief system, pro-Illuminati values, pro-Illuminati relationships. So these alters, these fragments, they want to go back to like cult life and to be around cult people and things of this nature. So it's about like managing that and making sure that doesn't happen. I kind of have to be like the leader of my system because they're quite strong.
Yeah, so like the fragment pieces of yourself are like kind of offering resistance when you're like, no, this is a better way to be like other selves, and they're like, no, something like that.
Yeah. Like I'll be watching like I'm trying to develop like a greater heart essence, right, or like compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just suddenly start watching like mixed martial arts for like hours. It's like guys beating each other. I'm like, this is fantastic. And then I'll realize that's like the altars, like some of the satanic altars. That's what they want to do. They want to watch this kind of violent spectacle. So it's like maintaining this type of self-awareness to like check myself to make sure I'm not doing that. Or even like Illuminati music, there's so much of it, like the top 50 hits. I'll suddenly want to listen to like, I don't know, Ariana Grande, like I want to listen to her, and they're just like Illuminati altars. We're like, we want to listen to that music, stuff like that. So it's like an internal kind of, I don't know, like a little fight, I guess.
Yeah, right. Hold on, one second. I'm gonna grab a thing from my computer. Where's that wood piece, Steve? Oh, it's right here. My computer starts heating up too much if I just let it sit on the bed. Yeah, so like it's that's a lot of what I talk about is keeping. That's why I'm always harping on self-work, because how your state is being maintained depends on whether some little trigger that says like, hey, listen to this music. When you turn the music on, it's like one step in the direction of the negative, right? Or for you, the Illuminati, or whatever you want to call it. it's a step, and then if you accumulate too many of those steps, then you're weakening your own personal energy field, and you're open to attacks, you're open to regressing back to that state even though you don't want to. So like staying present, basically, if you're staying fully present, you can't even be attacked. Like you can be attacked, but then you just act as observer and you watch it and you let it like flow through, right?
Yeah, I learned that from one of your videos, like the meditation techniques you're using. I find it quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not something that, it's not like a course where you're like, okay, like I'm finishing the course, now I'm done with the course, now I'm like totally fine. It's not like that. It's a, as far as I'm concerned, that's what you do till you're not in the realm anymore, or until you know you're something else has shifted a little bit. It's a constant, it's a never ending practice.
Yeah, and there's also like constant like a polarization thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
That constant trying to run away from something and then grab onto something and running away and grabbing on, and this type of process of thinking, which is like artificial intelligence, from what I've learned.
Well, there's so much out there. Even I'm not even connected to the, you know, the machine, like the regular media stations. I don't ever watch TV. I'm not even on Facebook very often, but the whole narrative, like the overarching narrative, is it's there and waiting for you, and it wants you to grab into it and take a stance. It doesn't want you just to sit there and be a passive bystander. It needs like the energy of the people to create the bad outcomes. Like that was always the trick, was that, you know, the ones that eat the negative, that eat the loosh or whatever, they can't create it. They have to like entice creator beings to create their own hells, and then they benefit off of it.
Yeah, they need like emotion, like anything with emotional content, because they're primarily mental beings anyway. So yeah, they need our emotions engaged with their kind of situations, which is all the more important to be neutral with things.
Right. Yeah, and it's both sides of the polarity. Like that's why I was so drawn to like Eastern religions, because they're saying watch everything. They're saying don't pick favorites. Don't pick joy as your, I want joy so badly. Like that's polarizing you. Literally every single emotion that you pick, one good or bad, it's throwing you off center, and you're at that point vulnerable. Not that you can't ever have joy or you can't ever laugh. It's that it has to be within that space that you've created that makes it safe to express that emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's when you're not reacting to things.
But then we can also carry it too far. You know, we can say like, oh, you know, I'm afraid to move at all because these guys in their hooks are so, you know, devious that I'm not going to move anything. But then like you're not even living at that point either. So you have to find some, you know, you have to find some middle ground anyway, even within that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the point is to go into a cave for 30 years and just sit there.
No, I mean, we've had people do that. We've had people do everything. Like if you look into the past, even with the enlightened masters, they've done everything. They've lit themselves on fire in protest of things that are going on. They've gone into caves. Some of them, like, you know, like Osho, like Bhagwan, he went the other way. He's like, I don't even care about the poor people. I'm ministering to the rich people because they're the ones that have the most problems. So that was like his group, is he talked to all the rich ones. You know, they gave him Rolls Royces and they built an airport. They built a whole city, and of course it got torn down, but like they've been trying everything, and we're like, the situation's still, you know, it's still percolating. It's not like it's fixed or something, but I think being actively creative within your own life as an individual, and this is every single person as an individual, if you're not just hooking into hive mind and turning yourself off, then, you know, you can't manage that herd. You can't manage a herd that just scatters. It's impossible.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what kind of collapses the system too, is a type of awareness where you're choosing mainly to move within a central core of yourself and work inwards and then go outwards, rather than the other way around. It kind of breaks the AI systems here, because they cannot deal with the complexity of that type of information.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from that like, vantage point. You can't deal with the complexity of that. So that's one of the real ways to collapse matrix system. It isn't protesting, going out holding signs that that's going to do nothing.
Yeah, no,
If
like
anything, that's
right. All of the traditional movements, every single traditional movement is already co-opted like before it even starts. That's why, like I don't even bother with it. I don't even bother putting mental energy toward who's protesting what or even what Trump is doing. Although this it's interesting to see like what the grander stage is doing. The battle, so to speak, if there's a battle it's going on inside of yourself, like you have to pay minute attention to everything within yourself, within your energy field, within your immediate environment, because that's where it starts. It starts with the individual. You can't have a horde of 1,000 people go and attack something if each one of those people is paying attention to what's going on inside of their bodies. How would that be possible?
yeah, and it's going real like real deep now. Like a lot of people are aware of stuff like I don't know MSG and like processed foods. Like people know that it's bad and you shouldn't put that in your body. And maybe there's fluoride in the water, and so there's a few things. But with like more gallons and like the nanotechnology, that's like a whole nother level of healing that I'm trying to deal with that now. Like that stuff's really tough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even the the idea that like you can have nanites in your body that can be controlled by some remote thing, like that's ridiculous even to think about. But it's a reality. It's not a reality for everyone in that like people need to freak out about it, but it does go deep. Like the levels that technology have gotten to, and on other timelines too. It's not just this particular timeline. It's the mental possibility spectrum. Like if it has been thought of, then it has been created on some timeline, and like that's what you and your individual timeline you have to just be aware of. Not freak out about it, but just be aware of it. I mean, there's music that can like flush nano stuff out of your body. There's frequencies that can neutralize it. There's lots of, and just your own inner self is the most powerful thing you have to deal with this stuff. It's not technology. Like the human being is what the technology was modeled after. So you can't like say somehow the technology is greater than the thing that it was created off of.
Yeah, but they do have like an advantage because I guess the information it's somewhat accessible with the internet if you're looking at things that counter. And I guess intuition is even the higher form of intelligence anyway, rather than doing research.
Mm-hmm.
But they still have quite a bit of advantage because there's so much programming from such a young age, like what's correct. And basically, most of society is a complete inversion of what is correct. So
Right.
there's that indoctrination going on that you have to clear out mentally before you can even move on to like physical and energetic layers.
Right. And just from the get go, that's why it's difficult for people who are coming out of you know the sleep state, because it's made to be where you look insane if you ask questions, because if the thing is upside down, and that means everybody's basically doing stuff that isn't correct as per like normal life. So if you say this is wrong, then you're going against the whole entire herd, and then they want to pull the pitchforks and whatever. So
Yeah.
that's what people are dealing with. That's what it just makes it difficult. You have to be able to talk about the situation and stay neutral with it, and not give into like emotional reactions, because if you do, then you'll get carted off to the mental hospital.
Yep. And the banking on that, they kind of a schizophrenia thing.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
Which is also normal, because if you've been installed with a bunch of alters, then you are schizophrenic. Like that's the very definition of schizophrenia.
Yeah. I mean, they've set that up, like the DSM criteria, like they know like all those symptoms, their
Right,
MK Ultra slaves is it's going to be like correlate exactly with it. So they know what they're doing.
right, right.
But if you use like traditional like pharmaceuticals to try and heal it, it's not going to work. Like,
No, most of the pharma stuff is just more traps. It's more mental traps.
yeah,
But still, like when you find your own power as an individual, almost, I mean, at least in this 3D level, the the placebo effect is the entire life. Like one thing isn't more powerful than the other thing. It's all what you give to it. Like you can freak yourself out over anything, or you can say like none of it means anything. Like you as the one who's looking out, you have the power.
Maybe it's a little bit further before I get to that state, I guess.
I mean, there are. I don't want to say that like that's the entire thing. The entire thing is a placebo. There are tools like if you run and jump in front of a semi truck on the freeway, you're probably gonna die. Like likely that's gonna happen. But the thing is like our reality is created from belief systems. It's a bunch of belief systems, and everybody says this is right, so then that is right. Like that's right for that particular time space. But for other people, it's not right. Like for other people, maybe 200 years ago, what's good and correct today just isn't correct anymore.
But what do you believe is? Have you heard of like natural law?
I have.
What do you think of that?
Like the law that's beyond what we have, like universal law kind of thing, like
Yeah.
beyond societies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the basis outside of societal constrictions, like just the thing of like my natural law, even if I don't go and try and find out what the thing actually is, my natural law is basically be respectful to other living beings, right? Be respectful and be creative within that, but respect other life forms. And that's, that's also the golden rule, but that may well be the natural law. I'm not sure. Like, do you have a knowledge of what natural law would be?
Well, I personally don't, like, I haven't done the research, but I've watched, like, Mark Passio's videos, and that seems to be his whole, like, spiel is, like, natural laws. And he's done the research, and that was, like, his first law, was, like, do unto others as you would do to yourself. He says that's the first law, and then everything else comes after that.
Yeah.
If you break that rule, if you break that rule, then everything that you're doing is wrong. If you start off with breaking it.
Yeah. That one, it makes sense because like if you think about it, like we're subjective, right? We're subjective beings. It's not an objective. If it were objective, then you wouldn't have all these religions like saying each one of them is wrong. Like it's subjective, right? So it would make sense that do unto others as you would have them do unto. It's the golden rule, basically. It's like your own morality, how you treat people, is how the universe is going to interpret what to send back to you.
Yeah.
And it has to be like on a per person basis. If it's not, there's not a one morality fits all. As far as I know.
Yeah.
Because how else would you, even if you were doing a life review, how else would you judge yourself? Like if you were going back and saying, oh, I could have done that better. Maybe I could work on that. Maybe I was mean in that instance. If you don't have a self, like, interior, coming from the interior way to like look at the life review, then nothing would even be happening. You'd be floating around. Like you have to have some way of positioning yourself as, and yourself is the start. Like how you feel is correct. That's your universe. You're in your universe.
Sure. And also like an aspect of God, so like a hierarchical version of how we're meant to be doesn't make sense if we're all part of God anyway. Like it's like I don't know. It's like the finger judging the toe.
Right.
The finger judging the toe. Like, hey, toe, you're really bad. You're messing up right now. You should have done this. And it's like, like it doesn't work. You're the finger. I'm the toe. We're the same being, really.
Yeah. Right. It does get it gets strange at some point. Because, I mean, you can say that's the same thing with a society. You can say, like, the rich person saying the homeless person should be homeless is, the finger judging the toe, or whatever. Like, we're all cells of a body. The larger body is the society, and it's hard to try and fit everything into the same moral structure, because you look out and you see suffering, and it's like, oh, suffering must exist. But then how do you, like, that's the struggle that everybody has to deal with. It's just part of life. Mm. In the midst of all that, you have to be able to somehow tell yourself or make your worldview to accept that, to see like this homeless person's suffering is for their, it's their life path. They're getting something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but there are some things which like don't compute in my mind, like in the cults, the eating of children, and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't really understand how that fits into the grand scheme of things. Unless we've dropped down here to like make people aware that they're eating children and whatnot, but you know,
Yeah, I mean, the difficult subjects are really difficult, and anybody who's done any research on what goes on in the realm knows that like horrific things happen, and not only that, but many people would say the government itself is being backed by this sort of, or the power structure comes from sort of the eating, the consuming of pure energy, whether it's a physical thing or like Aurora was saying, she was saying that it's not even necessarily a physical thing. It's like it's an energetic siphoning of purity, and maybe there is also physical things that go in there with that. But even if you're looking at things that are horrifying, it has to be done in a way that the people don't just go into like a panic or like shut down, like people that they don't just turn off and like stick their head further down the sand. Like that's why I think it's a delicate, like what Trump is doing. He doesn't have any easy job. He has to somehow do what he's doing and talk to the level of the people, which is, they're all sleeping, and then somehow actually be doing something at the same time. Like he has probably the most difficult job out of anybody.
he picked a really strange life path, I guess, to incarnate into. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And plus, like, he has people, wanting him impeached or wanting him dead or wanting, they don't want him doing anything because he's fucking with their plans. Like, on every level, you're fucking with someone else's plans and someone else is fucking with yours. Like, it's a tug of war. But in the midst of that, you still have to figure out how to live. Like, how do I live my life and stay sane? And, like, do my thing, be able to create things here and there. Like, that's the challenge that I think each of us has within the middle of it.
Yeah, sure. Like being awake, there's a lot of people that do that kind of condemnation, judging thing. They're like, you're asleep, you're supporting this and that, and everyone needs to eat. Like, you can be as awake as possible and know everything, but if you don't have a sandwich, I mean, you're going to be messed up. You're going to need your sandwich, you're going to need a bed to sleep on, you're going to need power. So you can't completely, like, want to go against the government or whatever, even if they are doing horrific things, because, they do let the power come into your house, So it is a difficult situation.
And also, like, as far as I know, on this level, actually, I don't know, maybe on no level does any one individual have, like, the whole picture. You can say, I have a very good worldview internally. Like, I feel like it makes a lot of sense, but there's also 7.5 billion other people just on this planet that all have different worldviews. And so, like, nobody has the whole picture, but you still have to do something with your own little tiny slice of the pie that you have inside of your head. Like, you still have to somehow figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything, so,
You know what?
I'm just happy like my healing works.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, there is, like, a lot of weird, like, Illuminati stuff going on with, like, artificial intelligence and, like, trying to control the future and, like, time wars going on and, like... Yeah, that's I guess, like, you hear people come up and talk about these kind of super soldier programs and all of that, and there's all that kind of strange magical reality.
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to this reality brief show the other day where they were talking to this super soldier guy, and he was very matter-of-factly talking about, like, a situation where he goes in with, a bunch of troops on a mission, and then he learns a little bit about this situation in time that they, like, relocated to, and then he dies, and then they, like, set him back up in there, then he goes and learns 2 more bits of information, then he dies, and they repeat that over and over and over until he has enough information to actually carry the mission out. And he said it happened, like, after he died 50 times. And he was talking about this like it was just his average day in the office,
Yeah, that's why I'm, like, real careful, because I was involved in these I still am involved in these type of operations, but I'm also, like, self-aware enough to realize that most people are going to look at that as, like, absolutely ridiculous. so I'm very careful before I talk about those things. But yeah,
It kind
it
of
is happening. But
it kind of has like built-in safety almost, because like it's it's so out of conception range for regular people that they almost have to say like you're insane, and then it's all fine because then everyone's like, oh well, he's insane, so it's fine, you know, like let him be, let him drool in the corner or whatever. But it's also like a protection mechanism, because if somebody mentally can get past that first judgment, then they can peer into it for themselves without disrupting everybody else.
yeah, I think the way to look at it is just think of it as like, even if the story isn't completely true, or maybe the person's memory isn't exactly accurate, because everyone's memory is, you know, prone to not being 100% accurate all the time. It's like police know this from looking at witnesses. But even if it's somewhat false or not perfect, it's still an interesting story. Like, you're not going to lose anything listening to it.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, Coast to Coast, Art Bell. Have you ever listened to Art Bell, like, back in the day?
No.
Art
I
Bell.
try to little space program and stuff, because like I said, I'm trying to get out of that stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I actually go on board with the skeptics who are like, it's bullshit. I'm like, yeah, it's bullshit. But like, I'm like, yeah, they're lying to us. Yeah, they're lying.
Right.
Like, because I want to get away from.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it is.
Yeah, you're coming from the other side of it, but like, as when I was growing up, I would hear these stories. People would call in. They talk about ghosts. They talk about like just weird shit. They talk about spaceships. They talk about abductions. Literally everything that's just weird. And you know, to me, it was interesting. I grew up in, you know, like this family that said all of that's none of that's real. Like, don't get caught up with that made up fantasy world. But you know, the world that you're given in school, it has no relevance to anything. So like you have to find some way out of that, at least so you can explore a little bit, because they're not even giving you anything to explore. At least with the other one, even if it's all fake, like it's something that's happening, right? Like something interesting is happening.
It is interesting.
But I can understand like you're not wanting to dive into all of the crazy stories if you already have one inside that goes on, you know.
It's so like convoluted and like complex, and maybe I'll get into it sometime, like in the future, but like not on like a casual chat like this.
Yeah,
it's
right.
A bit too much.
Right. You seem pretty balanced. I mean, given that you've likely been through a lot, you seem like you're pretty centered.
Well, yeah, that's why the cults hate me, because like they can do this crazy abuse, and like I've seen like the craziest stuff you can imagine, like the worst depravity you could see happen in this realm. Like, I've seen it. I've been part of it. Most people in these cults have been part of this kind of depravity. It's just the way it is, like with the altars.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm still managed to be like quite calm and like do my healing, and you know, every day just practice my healing and do it at my own pace. And they hate that. They want their kind of they're obsessed with drama. It's like the service to self, like satanic way, Luciferian way, is this drama. Like they love it. And that's why I put a big distance here, because like I'm not going to heal with all that drama. It's kind of interesting, like learning about it. But you know, like one thing, these guys, these really important people, these intelligence agencies or these big cults, they have boardroom meetings, and they come and watch videos like this. Like 100 people will watch a video of this guy. These big, famous, important dudes will be sitting down there, being like, I don't like what they're talking about. How's this affecting the timeline? We need to control this. And like, that's like one of the, you know, strange things that happens in this planet.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine a lot happens. I mean, like,
yeah, so
what you see in regular news is literally nothing. So like, you just have to use a slight bit of imagination outside of that. I just pretend like everybody's watching all the time, no matter what, and like that my moment is always accessible to anybody. So I'm like talking like, yeah, you know, just pretend like everybody's watching, and then also you stay out of trouble that way as well, you know.
Yeah, it gives you kind of like a self-checking mechanism to
Yeah,
make sure.
right.
Yeah.
Because they're it gets weird. Like I know it gets weird when people do this this time hacking shit, and they're trying to project futures and whatever. All they're doing is they're taking the mind's natural ability to be alive, which includes like the future forecasting anyway, and looking into the past, right? They're taking that and they're overlaying it with the machine, and the machine doesn't even do it as well as like your own mind does. So like it gets all fucky, and they freak themselves out like imagining these timelines, and then they think they're actually doing something by like, oh, go fix that one over there, go fix that one. They probably don't even know what they're doing. I know that there probably is some level of, yes, we modified that and we changed that outcome, but like if you get too deep into it, you're doing the fractal thing, and then you're gonna come around, you're gonna see your own face on the other side. It's gonna freak you out, and you'll be like, all right, I'm not ever touching this time shit ever again, because like that's what it is. It's the Ouroboros at the end of it. You're not gonna come to any like amazing knowledge at the end of it.
It seems, yeah. It looks just like for me anyway. For what I do, it's a big like recovery mission anyway. Like they've already messed it up on their timelines anyway, and they're just trying to stitch things or piece things up together to make it slightly cleaner looking. Like,
I know it's like Frankenstein. He makes the monster, and then the monster tries to eat him, and then all of the book after that is going to be him like running away from his monster, or trying to figure out whatever split piece inside of him decided that he needed to make a monster in the first place. It's just like cleanup after that. It's a giant cleanup mission.
Yep, pretty much.
And like it's also embarrassing for the like officials that get in this stuff and they don't know what they're getting into, and then all of a sudden like they're watching something that they can't believe is happening, and then they're like, oh, I can't do this, and then they have to get silenced because they know too much. The whole thing, it becomes embarrassing, and then they have to show a completely different face to the public, and they have to know like they're absolutely full of shit. It just, as a whole, for all of the individuals involved, it becomes just weird.
I'd agree with that one.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Have you listened? Were you the one that said you listened to Alan Watts? I don't remember if that was you or somebody else.
No, I'm pretty sure he's CIA, so I don't know to watch him.
You think he's CIA?
I don't know any like CIA people. I know nothing. Actually, like Stephen.
He might be.
Stephen.
Steven?
Stephen. I started watching him from your channel. Stephen Lawson, is it?
Lawson, yeah.
Yeah, he did a pretty interesting description about why he's CIA, and I like, wow, this was really good.
And probably everybody's CIA. I don't know. Like you can get
MI6. That's what he said. MI6.
Well, I mean, like if you take into account that the MK Ultra stuff involved psychedelics, right? It involved LSD, a lot of it. Then, if somebody was doing drugs, likely they're associated with the program by virtue of taking it in the first place. Even if they're not directly like being handled, they're going to the same thought space. Like they're touching the same realms that other people are touching, taking the same substance. But like what?
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah.
What? I like Alan Watts. I don't know. I just assume everybody's in everything. Like, it doesn't matter. But one of the things that he's kind of advocated was the idea that we as humans or as beings, we've gotten ourselves into a predicament because we're like conceptualizing, and then we're pulling it out into the existence, and then like it has problems, and then we fix it, we pull something else out. But we've been doing so many things, like, and then we fix this and fix that, we fix one thing, and then something pops out the other side. So he was like, maybe the best thing to do in some situations is just nothing. Like, just sit back and let nature kind of like return back to some sort of balance, and not be necessarily like just fucking with everything all the time.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way because with these, there's this thing with like secret space programs, this big like disclosure movement going on. I'm not against that, but there's also this kind of, it's almost like coercion where like if you're going to help humanity or not.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to speak about your experience and stuff like that and go on YouTube and talk with this stuff. And these were like the only possibilities I was given like a few months ago. It's like, you have to do that or you're going to cause the destruction of humanity. And the programming is like really, really, really like strong.
Mm-hmm.
And all I did was just like, you know what, I'm just going to wait this out and I'm going to see if like some new options or some new possibilities come out. Because I want to do what I want to do. And it's not that I don't care about humanity, or I don't care about disclosure, like I care about all of that stuff, but I do want to be able to force and handle and have like my free will like distorted for
Right.
any cult faction for any reason, because that's like breaking natural laws straight away.
Right. Yeah. Like the balanced path doesn't have an agenda. Like that's if you're literally staying neutral or you staying balanced, there isn't an agenda. The agendas are something that come in because somebody's scared or they want money. Those are mainly the two reasons. Or they want things. You want stuff. You want to run away from something. You want to run to something. Or you're scared of all the people in your group. Or you're scared of God. But it's always the same fundamental things. As you're scared of something or you want something. And the balanced path has you do away with those altogether. Like, you still take care of your body. You still need to do things. But you're more of an observer status than, like, getting in there and doing stuff. Because getting in there and doing stuff is what got us to this in the first place. Is too much. We're fixing too many things. We need to stop fixing things a little bit.
Well, at least fix ourselves before trying to fix things.
Yeah.
Like
Self-work is good. But, like, if a city stops doing something, right? Say the city stopped, a city just stops. There's no more movement in there. The forest is going to overgrow that city within 3 or 4 years. It's going to be trees, and the trees are going to not care that there are buildings there. They're just going to go grow, and then eventually all that infrastructure will just be completely gone. Like, it's not a problem for something to return to balance. It's a problem if we keep continually trying to fix and fix and fix. But on a like a broad scale, on a personal scale, I think there's no end to the self-work and the healing that we all need to be doing. I think that goes very, very far. That's all I focus on.
Yeah, me too. That's all I've been doing recently.
Mm-hmm.
Chatting to like Americans now. That's my new thing.
You what?
I'm chatting to Americans now. That's my new thing. Because there's like no one in New Zealand who's even slightly awake. Not even slightly. Like even the spokespeople on the YouTube and stuff, like they're like only partially, like no judgment to them. Like I don't like they do great things, but I honestly don't know anyone in New Zealand who's said like even something slightly awake.
That's a bit of a flip though. Don't most countries judge the U.S. for being, not knowing anything? That could be a bad generalization.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like these type of judgments about any place.
Right.
Every place is going to have like NPCs. Like it doesn't matter where. You can look at I don't know, like an India sacred place where they build temples. They're going to have NPCs who like McDonald's and like prostitutes and whatnot. Like it's everywhere. So.
Yep.
I don't like making generalizations about a whole country.
Yeah. It's I don't know, like the percentage.
And Americans got it tough too. Like
the percentage is low. It's low, but part of the self work is remembering that you have power as an individual, and the generalization thing keeps you out of yourself. It keeps you like if I even say the word Europe, like I'm already out of myself. Like I'm imagining, right? So like learning how to even notice yourself when you're doing that that's a huge skill.
Yeah. That's automatic thinking.
Yeah.
Which is in psychology that's called like a heuristic, which is just the way we cope with difficulties in life. Is we have to take like complicated situations because we can't be looking at everything and being like, what is this cup? It's a geometric shape that's cone-like with this handle and it's got all these colors on it. You just go, it's a cup, like it's phosphor.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is if you just do that all the time, like you're just using these like quick concepts to move faster, faster around, you're gonna miss out on a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. You have like, I say this all the time, but like, if you took a moment and made sure you're aware, like, I'm here, got hands and whatnot, not thinking somewhere else, and just like explore like your bedroom or something. Like you could literally, you're in whole, you can go into a universe inside of your own bedroom, and you could stay in there for hours and hours and hours, and then I guarantee you'd find tons of stuff you didn't know existed, and you'd find new thought spaces as a result of looking at these things. And that also, like, doing that sort of thing makes you inaccessible to the programming, because you're in a different universe. You're not, the universe hasn't sat there and categorized all of the objects inside of your bedroom and exactly how they are in your mind. Like, it doesn't know all that stuff. You can go explore your own universe. Like, we forget that we forget we're even here, and then we're constantly in the conceptual thing. And that's what I have to remind myself a lot, is that, like, my own bedroom is just as much of a universe as when I think of stars and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's where like the compassion thing comes in, because when you realize like how, like I was watching like an ant just like walk over my arm, and the ant has its own existence. Like it plays around with all the other ants, and they make colonies, and they have their own ecosystem, and probably they have their own form of politics or whatnot. The simple politics.
Right.
And it's just like, then you can have some kind of compassion for this thing rather than just stepping on it. And be like, oh, there's an ant. Just like stand.
Yeah.
Up,
Right.
keep walking.
Right. Yeah, it's universes in universes, and like I kind of consider it to be like lazy. It's lazy. If you've become to the point where you're constantly in concepts, and you're not even aware. That's what the people in San Francisco are doing. They don't even know that they exist in the street. Like, they don't know I'm here. They don't know what is the relationship between our vehicles. They don't use their blinkers. They're not even. It's like, you're not even respecting your tiny local environment. So what are you doing sitting talking about country politics? Like, it's a weird disconnect.
Yeah, it's really annoying. Like, you know, basically.
You kind of cut
And
out.
my brother got spieling all this stuff about like pro-European politics and like black immigration there. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's in Norway. Like, we're in New Zealand, and he's completely firm about it. Like,
Yeah.
black immigration, if it happens in New Zealand, don't worry about it over like Northern Europe.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit. I don't know if my internet connection is bad. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you fine. The image is like blurry.
Yeah, you've frozen a little bit. My computer might be getting a little hot. But, I mean, I just feel like we have a lot of tightening up to do as far as being precise with things, because, like, we talk about stuff, we've gotten so vague and generalistic about everything that we're not even having a conversation. Like, if someone's talking about Donald Trump and someone's talking about like Black Lives Matter and someone's talking about this and that, and then half their city is homeless at the same time, like, there's just something wrong. There's something that's not. We need to tighten the ship up a little bit.
Half of the
You're breaking up a lot.
yeah.
We might have to bring this one to a close because the connection's getting kind of bad.
Okay. It was not.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut this one off. But thank you for coming on. It was really good chatting with you. And
Likewise.
yeah, we'll do it again sometime if you want. maybe I can wrestle up some better internet connection so it's not. Uh, at the beginning of the month, I have like a lot of data available, so I could do one just off of my phone. So like perhaps next month at the beginning or the month after that, we can try it again with better internet connection, perhaps.
Sure, it could be mine too. Like I had to call my internet company today and ask them like, why does it disconnect me in 5 minutes? It's probably mine.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it.
All right. See you later.
Take care.